From the studios of Atlantic Television Network in Port Harcourt, this is ATN International News. First, the headlines. Namibia confirms first case of cholera in 10 years. Ireland donates $16 million to Brazil's Amazon Fund. White House withdraws well done for CDC director. Johns Hopkins University slashes 2,000 jobs. Train hijack, hostages end ordeal with arrival. Insurgents attack on passenger train kills 2. Board of the U.S. Export-Import Bank approved a nearly $5 billion loan for a long-delayed LNG project in Mozambique, clearing a key hurdle to restarting the project under development by French oil major Total Energies. The Export-Import Bank had previously agreed a $4.7 billion loan for the $20 billion project under President Donald Trump's first administration, but it needed to be reapproved after construction on the project was frozen in 2021 due to violent unrest in the nearby northern Cabo Delgado region before any disbursements were made. This region that is bordering Angola is explaining why we have this case, he said, adding that an outbreak of cholera in the neighboring southern African country since January had killed 237 people out of 6,564 cases. Meanwhile, Namibia's health ministry said the patients had no recent travel history outside the country. The number of infections in Angola has been declining, and the health agency was taking actions to stop the outbreak, Kaseya said. He added that Africa's CDC had sent 2,000 oral cholera vaccines to Angola to protect healthcare workers, but additional resources were needed to provide the country with more doses. Used her status in the most egregious way by tricking a young Ugandan woman to come to Britain in 2022 to work as a maid without payment. Ms. Mugambe used her knowledge and power to deceive the woman into coming to the UK, taking advantage of her naivety. Mugambe was charged under the UK's Modern Slavery Act with conspiring with John Leonard Mugewa, who was Uganda's Deputy High Commissioner, to facilitate the commission of a breach of immigration law. Prosecutors said Mugambe and Mugewa, who was not on trial, provided false information that the woman would work at the High Commission in order to bring her into the country. Mugambe was also charged with facilitating travel with a view to exploitation, forcing someone to work, and conspiracy to intimidate a witness, to which she pleaded not guilty. Mugambe, who told the court she had never exploited the woman, was convicted of all 4 counts on Thursday. She will be sentenced at a later date. Uganda's High Commission in London and the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Longtime foes, Ethiopia and Eritrea, could be headed towards war. Officials in the restive Ethiopian region at the center of the tensions have warned, risking another humanitarian disaster in the Horn of Africa. Direct clashes between 2 of Africa's largest armies would signal the death blow for a historic rapprochement for which Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019 and could draw in other regional powers, analysts said. It would also likely create another crisis in the region where Tigray between the Tigray People Liberation Front, TPLF, and Ethiopia's central government killed hundreds of thousands of people. Fears of a new conflict are linked to the TPLF's split last year into a faction that now administers Tigray with the blessing of Ethiopia's federal government and another that opposes it. On Tuesday, the dissident faction, which Satkan accused of seeking an alliance with Eritrea, seized control of the northern town of Adigrat. Getachew Reda, the head of Tigray's interim administration, in turn asked the government for support against the dissidents who deny ties in Eritrea. There is clear antagonism between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Getachew told a news conference on Monday, "What concerns me is that the Tigray Brazilian egg exports, including fresh and processed products, increased by 57.5% in February, the Brazilian Animal Protein Association, ABPA, said on Wednesday, citing stronger U.S. demand. In total, 2,527 tons were shipped in the second month of the year, compared to 1,604 in the same period last year. Brazilian egg shipments totaled $4.936 million, by value 63.2% higher than in the same period last year. Egg prices hit a record high in the U.S. amid outbreaks of avian flu, forcing the nation to turn to imports and benefiting suppliers in Brazil, which is also the world's largest chicken exporter. In the first 2 months of 2025, 4,884 tons were exported, up some 38%. In that same period, export revenue jumped 41.8% to $9.122 million. ABPA said the main export destination, the United Arab Emirates, imported 548 tons in February, a 2.6% decrease compared to the same period last year. Next came the United States with 503 on its doors to Brazilian eggs, imported 252 tons. Japan with 252 tons increased imports by 111.3%, ABPA said. Until recently, Brazil was only allowed to export eggs for production of pet food in the U.S., Ricardo Santin, head of ABPA, told reporters in a recent interview. Starting in January, the U.S. began issuing new permits allowing imports of Brazilian eggs for processing in the U.S. for human consumption. Brazilian eggs cannot be sold directly to U.S. consumers, he said. Brazil produced 57 billion eggs in 2024 and is expected to produce 59 billion in 2025, Santin noted, adding exports represent less than 1% of the domestic production. Brazil's all-time egg exports record was in 2009 when 37 tons were shipped. This year, ABPA estimates exports in the range of 30,000 to 35,000 tons in the interview. Federal judges in California and Maryland on Thursday ordered U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to reinstate thousands of probationary federal workers who lost their jobs as part of mass firings carried out at 19 agencies. The back-to-back rulings were the most significant blow yet to the effort by Trump and top advisor Elon Musk to drastically shrink the federal bureaucracy. Government agencies face a Thursday deadline to submit plans for a second wave of mass layoffs and to slash their budgets. U.S. District Judge James Brewer in Baltimore agreed with 20 Democratic-led states that 18 of the agencies which had fired probationary employees en masse in recent weeks violated regulations governing the laying off of federal workers. Brewer's restraining order applies to, among other agencies, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the U.S. Agency for International Development, all three of which have been in the deregulatory and cost-cutting crosshairs of the Trump administration. Other agencies covered by the judge's order include the U.S. Departments of Agriculture, Commerce, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Labor, Transportation, Treasury, and Veterans Affairs. While the administration argued it dismissed each of the employees for performance or other individualized reasons, the judge said that was not true, which would make the job cuts a form of mass layoff necessitating advance notice to the states, who have obligations to assist their newly unemployed citizens. His decision came hours after U.S. District Judge William Alsop, during a hearing in San Francisco, ordered the reinstatement of probationary employees terminated at 6 agencies, including the U.S. Department of Defense, which was not covered by Maryland's decision. Alsop said the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, OPM, the Human Resources Department for federal agencies, had improperly ordered those agencies to fire workers en masse, even though it lacked the power to do so. The President has the authority to exercise the power of the entire executive branch. Singular district court judges cannot abuse the power of the entire judiciary to thwart the President's agenda, Levert said. Ireland announced on Wednesday a donation of 15 million euros, which is approximately $16.3 million, to the fund, raising the list of dog BBB for the North to 8 countries. The statement added, the Amazon Fund, which is managed by Brazil's Development Bank, supports the prevention, monitoring and combat of afforestation and fosters sustainable development. It has funded 123 projects with a total investment of 3.1 billion reais, the ministry said. Norway, Germany, United States, the United Kingdom, Denmark, Switzerland and Japan have also donated to the fund. The announcement of Ireland's donation was made in a meeting in Sao Paulo between Brazil's Environment Minister, Marina Silva, and Ireland's Transportation Minister, Sean Carney, according to the statement. The White House withdrew President Donald Trump's nomination of former Republican congressman and vaccine critic Dave Weldon to serve as director of the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, a surprise move that came shortly before his scheduled Senate confirmation hearing on Thursday. Weldon, a physician who has criticized vaccines, said in a 4-page statement that he sent to reporters that he had been informed 12 hours before the hearing by the White House that there were not enough votes for confirmation. The CDC director would lead the response to public health threats, including the growing measles cases in the U.S., especially the outbreak in West Texas and New Mexico that has killed 2 people, and play a critical role in tackling the spread of bird flu. Weldon is the first Trump nominee withdrawn from consideration. The Republican majority Senate confirmed unconventional picks, including anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services, former Fox News host Pete Hegseth's intelligence efforts since the Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee confirmed that Weldon's nomination hearing had been cancelled. Weldon, in his letter, denied that he was anti-vaccine and said he believed U.S. senators, including Republicans Susan Collins of Maine and Health Committee Chairman Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, planned to vote against him. Cassidy said he was not behind the withdrawal. An engine on an American Airlines jet caught fire after the plane diverted to Denver, the administration said. The airline said all 172 passengers and 6 crew members had exited the plane, though Denver International Airport said 12 people were transported to hospitals with minor injuries. American Airlines flight (1006) from Colorado Springs on a Boeing 737-800 landed in Denver around 5:15 p.m., diverting from its planned destination of Dallas after the crew reported engine vibrations, the FAA said. Several dramatic videos of passengers standing on the wing of the plane as smoke poured out of the engine were posted on social media. The plane, which is 13 years old, according to Flight Side Down, upon landing at Canada's Toronto Pearson Airport in windy weather following a snowstorm, injuring 18 of the 80 people and crew members survived the incident. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom and Delta CEO Ed Bastian on Tuesday cited recent air crashes and weather events as contributing factors dampening U.S. travel demand alongside mounting economic uncertainty. Johns Hopkins University said on Thursday it will slash over 2,000 jobs in the U.S. and abroad after the administration of President Donald Trump terminated $800 million in grants to the renowned academic institution. It marked the biggest layoffs in the university's history and involved 247 domestic U.S. workers, Marco Rubio said on Monday. In addition to attacks on the U.S. Foreign Aid Agency, the Trump administration is also probing 60 American universities, including Hopkins, over pro-Palestinian protests on campuses. The Trump administration alleges protesters are anti-Semitic. Demonstrators deny the allegations and say the U.S. government is conflating their criticism of U.S. ally Israel's military assault on Gaza with anti-Semitism. Last week, the U.S. canceled $400 million in grants and contracts to New York's Columbia University. The Trump administration is also seeking to deport Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian graduate student who has played a prominent role in pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia. Scores of people poured into the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City on Thursday to protest the arrest and detention of Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil, whom the Trump administration aims to deport over his pro-Palestinian activism. The arrest of Khalil, who is in immigration custody in Louisiana after his arrest in New York on Saturday, has sparked an outcry by Democratic lawmakers, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, and civil liberty advocates, among others. Jewish Voice for Peace, which describes itself as a progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization, carried out Thursday's demonstration. The group said it was taking over the Trump Tower to register our mass refusal. We will not stand by as this fascist regime attempts to criminalize Palestinians and all those calling for an end to the Israeli government's U.S.-funded genocide of the Palestinian people, the group said in a post on X. Trump Tower, located on Manhattan's Fifth Avenue, is home to the Trump Organization and where President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump own a penthouse apartment. Their son, Baron, has been living there since beginning his freshman year at New York University in the fall. At least 150 protesters gathered at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, the New York Police Department estimated. Images on social media show demonstrators carrying signs saying "Fight Mziz, not students," and "Free Mahmoud, free Palestine." Video showed police arresting some of the protesters. The NYPD said 98 arrests were made. Cash Daughtry, the deputy mayor for public safety, said on Fox News that there were no injuries and all the protesters had been removed from the building. The Trump Organization did not immediately provide comments. By arresting Khalil on Saturday, the Trump administration began fulfilling its campaign promise to deport foreign-born activists who participated in the wave of protests on U.S. college campuses last year. The protest followed Israel's military assault on Gaza, which came after the October 2023 attack by the militant group Hamas, which controlled the Palestinian enclave. We'll go on a short break now, and when we return, we'll continue with the rest of the stories. Please stay with us.